Okay, let's dive right into this explainer because the history we're talking about today is it's almost too bizarre to believe. We're looking at how a highly refined, gentlemanly parlor game, Victorian billiards, temporarily turned into a literal explosive hazard. Seriously, imagine you're lining up the perfect shot, calculating your angles, leaning in for the win, only for the impact to trigger a violent chemical explosion right in your face. Because back in the late 19th century, early plastic billiard balls were quite literally ticking time bombs just waiting to detonate.
But hey, before we get to the actual explosions, we really need some perspective on human survival. I mean, think about it. Trace your family line backward from today, past your late-night snack addictions and mild caffeine dependencies, past the eras of powdered wigs, straight through the days of heavy chainmail, and way past the mammoths. Keep going until you eventually stumble upon some ancient ancestor squatting in the dirt, just chewing on a beetle and trying not to die before sundown. That guy? No name, no shoes, and absolutely no idea that you even exist.
So, you may complain about scratching on the 8-ball or losing a friendly game of pool down at the local bar today, but the truth is, we have absolutely no idea how good we have it. Honestly, if any of the thousands of people in your incredibly long ancestral chain had tripped at the wrong moment or, gotten eaten by something toothy, well, you simply wouldn't be here. Our modern grievances really pale in comparison to the sheer, brutal gauntlet of history. And the crucial point here is exactly this. You only exist because 1,000 people before you didn't die when they probably should have. You're not just lucky. You're the literal byproduct of violent coincidence and incredibly stubborn biology. Human survival is pure, unrelenting chaos. And understanding that inherent chaos, well, that's what makes the bizarre history of 19th century billiards we're about to unpack so wonderfully, terrifyingly absurd. So that chaotic backdrop perfectly sets the stage for a massive crisis that hit the late 19th century. For centuries, billiard balls were carved out of solid elephant ivory, but as the game became super popular, massive demand meant ivory was becoming incredibly scarce and wildly expensive. The billiard industry was in a full-blown crisis and desperately needed a cheap alternative. And humans, necessity drives innovation, so they figured out how to make an early plastic, specifically a material known as celluloid. At the time, it seemed like a brilliant, totally cost-effective solution to save the game. But man, does this ever illustrate a terrifying flaw in that innovation. Get this. The primary ingredient in celluloid was nitrocellulose, which is essentially gun cotton. Yeah, you heard that right, gun cotton? The whole process of creating this early plastic involved a highly sensitive, highly combustible, explosive material. So they were quite literally manufacturing kinetic game pieces out of a chemical compound that was literally designed to blow up. Now, sure, when these shiny new celluloid billiard balls just sat peacefully in a wooden rack, they were completely harmless. But billiards is fundamentally a game of kinetic energy, right? When a player lined up for a super powerful break or smashed two balls together with enough force, they generated intense, sudden friction. And that friction, that sudden impact, it would occasionally cause those unstable chemicals to violently combust right there on the green felt.
Just picture it. The highly refined, highbrow Victorian aesthetic, the fancy waistcoats, the cigars, the quiet, intense concentration, completely shattered by a violent chemical reaction. These billiard balls would actually detonate in your face. And honestly, the most terrifying part, they exploded with the exact, deafening cracking sound of a firing gun.
Now, take that incredibly volatile chemical reaction and drop it into a crowded, rowdy 19th century saloon. You didn't just get a ruined game of pool, you got pure screaming panic. I mean, in an era where actual deadly shootouts were a very real everyday threat, every cowboy and patron in the establishment instantly assumed that a deadly gunfight had just broken out right there in the bar. And this wasn't just a funny, isolated incident either. We actually have documented accounts of historical saloon owners totally lamenting this ridiculous phenomenon. One complained, every time the billiard balls violently cracked, every single cowboy and gambler in the room instantly drew their six-shooters. I mean, imagine trying to run a respectable, or let's be real, even an unrespectable establishment, and every single time someone breaks the rack, 20 guys draw their weapons in sheer terror. So let's put this little slice of micro chaos into a macro perspective for a second. Humanity survived the 13th century Mongol invasions, right? Where horse archers could literally hit targets from 300 yards away at a full gallop, wiping entire cities off the map before people even had time to panic. We survived the Black Death, where catching the bubonic plague from a shared cup was basically a deadly lottery, and doctors were walking around in those creepy bird masks stuffed with flowers, essentially vibe-checking the plague as peak medieval science. You survive all of that history, all of that horror, and then centuries later, you accidentally blow yourself up playing pool on a Friday night. This whole Victorian saloon panic was pure chaos. Actually, it was almost as unpredictable as the ancient Roman punishment of the sack. If you don't know what that is, they would literally take a criminal, sew them into a leather bag alongside a live dog, a snake, a monkey, and a rooster, and then throw the whole shebang into a river, just to be mauled by terrified animals that hated the situation just as much as the criminal did. In the Victorian era, a simple parlor game could instantly turn your Friday night into that exact same level of unpredictable, screaming panic.
Look, humans are creatively brilliant, for sure, just not always in the ways you'd want us to be. Like we said earlier, you are the absolute miracle that your ancestors fought mammoths for. So the very next time you're leaning over a pool table, lining up a super difficult shot, and you happen to miss, just take a deep breath and be immensely thankful that your simple mistake didn't trigger a violent chemical explosion right in your face.
Before natural selection does its job, I really want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to chew on. If our history is truly just a series of violent coincidences, stubborn biology, and exploding parlor games, what entirely normal, seemingly harmless part of your day-to-day is secretly a historical punchline waiting to happen? Seriously, what modern innovation are we casually using right now that will completely and utterly baffle our descendants? Think about that, and keep questioning the bizarre world around you.